plant people, if we haven't met before, I am Sam, the proud owner of Plant Collector Melbourne, and today's video, my friends, we are going to be talking about some controversial things, specifically 5 things that I do that may cause some controversy. Let's get into it. That these may cause some controversy is because there are definitely some pros and cons and people that feel quite a strong way when it comes to these particular things with their plants. So I'm going to share with you 5 different things that I do that I think people may not agree with. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Let's find out. Let's talk about inflorescence. Inflorescence is actually the reproductive structure of a plant. It particularly is for aroids, and you can have them in different forms. So of course they kind of typically look the same and functionally do the same thing. But for me, even if it's a phyllo, alocasia, anthurium, whatever, I typically chop them off. And I know some of you are going to be like, Sam, but why? And it is because, and I think we can actually relate it to humans as well. If you think about reproduction and the idea of creating a offspring, it is actually energy taxing. And so to produce a flower or multiple flowers in an inflow is actually very taxing for the plant, and to also hold it. So I guess like at the beginning stage of when an inflow starts to come out, of course it takes energy to create, and when I start to see that, I typically chop it off. And some people would really want to keep them around because who knows, maybe they think they are pretty, even they look a little bit phallic. And then I also think that people might keep them to collect the pollen or to produce berries. There are definitely reasons as to why people would keep them. For me, however, I personally don't find that I need to keep them, and I would much rather the energy be kept in the plant and so that it can focus on leaf production rather than offspring production. Do you guys do the same? I don't know. So number 2, and this has definitely changed over the years. And if you look back in videos, I will typically say that I am a chronic overwaterer. But my friends, I have gotten extremely busy in my life. So now I am an underwaterer. But I wouldn't say a chronic one. I wouldn't say that, but I will only water my plants when they start to show signs of dehydration. And that means if you are quite new to your plants and you haven't been well acquainted yet, it might be a little bit harder to see the symptoms such as like shriveled leaves, thin leaves, ones that look sad and droopy compared to happy and perky. But if you do know like the plant language of when plants need a water, that is typically when I like to water, just because we are getting to the stage where we're drying out, but not completely dried out. There's a difference. There is a difference. And so normally, Pa Sam would definitely water on designated days, whether the plant needed water or not, or if it just was, I don't know, I just didn't really look for the signs for the plant. And so I guess one thing that I do now that is very different to what I used to do is I water the plants only when they show signs of dehydration. Ooh, okay. This one is a good one, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. In my time, I can't say that I've propagated a whole lot, but definitely have had success when I have done it. And just from experience, and also just the way that I like to grow my plants. Number 3. The third thing that I do that is a little bit controversial is I prefer to chop up and propagate plants that are younger and smaller rather than bigger and mature. And why is that, Sam? It's because, and it might just be my experience, I genuinely don't know. But when I have had really big mature plants, I get a little bit scared that if I were to cut it and it wasn't cut like properly, or it could be susceptible to infection, I personally think that it is scarier for me to chop up bigger plants because older plants to me may hold a special place in my heart because there is a correlation is that if you've got a big plant, it has stayed with you for a long time. And I don't know how true this is. So bigger plants in general seem to be hardier in terms of they can deal with a lot more pressures and stress, whether that is over underwatering and pests, because it's just more mature, they're more grounded, they probably have bigger root systems to hold everything down and together. Whereas younger plants, if it starts to get cold, if you overwater them, there's not a lot of margin for error in comparison to bigger plants. But that's not when it comes to propagation. I feel like propagation, I don't know, is it just that the older stem and the older leaves don't really quite have many active nodes, or they don't have as much growth points or vigorous growth? So for example, we have a huge philodendron that is at the front of PCM, which is just in that direction. I'll definitely get some footage for y'all, but it's more that the top of the big plant is really active and looks super healthy, but the further down you go, the more woodsier it is, the more inactive it is. And so if I were to chop that up, I do feel like that the top bit will have a lot of success and the bottom bits may or may not make it. Whereas when it is a smaller plant, particularly Anthurium, I chop things up and they just grow. They grow faster. So yeah, I don't know how true that is or if it is just my experience, but I would love to know what y'all think and what has been your experience as well. Oh, this one is going to grind so many people's gears. And have I changed over the years? I really don't think I've changed over the years. If you've been following me on my personal plant journey, not just PCM's journey, but my personal collection and how I like to care for my plants, I have a greenhouse that was originally built at my mum and dad's place. Jacob and I, which is my partner, actually live in a separate place, and that greenhouse or all those plants are actually being so lovely looked after by my parents. So we do have a humidifier in the greenhouse. Whether that humidifier is said to be on all the time, we also had sprinklers that worked for maybe about a year, and I've had the greenhouse for, I'm gonna say since either 2019 or 2020, and I still have not fixed or replaced those misters. So here we are. This is number 4, which is I like to grow my personal collection in ambient or lower humidity. And so many of you would be like, why, Sam, why? Because it is not optimal. And that is the thing that I like to tell everyone is that, yes, you can grow plants in optimal conditions where there is amazing airflow, where there is amazing humidity, that they're getting fed really well, that the light is perfect for them and they're just getting everything perfect. And you will have optimal growth, which is awesome. My only thing to that is that can you actually sustain that much growth for a long period of time? Because if you have a plant that grows really big really quickly, you're going to have the space for it. And some people might be like, oh, but it's because I want to propagate and grow them and potentially pass them on or sell them. And I think that's awesome. Love that for you. But also, do you still have the space in case people do not get these things or want those things? So there is a part of me that thinks, yes, it is so awesome to strive to have the best conditions possible because your plants will absolutely thank you for it. But it is also completely okay to not grow in optimal conditions. And yes, it will slow the growth of the plant down, but is that a bad thing? Do I grow optimally? But it would be nice if I put myself in the most optimal environment. So I leave it up to you guys. And so this is kind of going on the same wavelength as not growing optimally. So this one, and it is the last one, which is number 5. I grow my plants in low to moderate light. And the people that do indoor plants are going to be like, Sam, bright indirect light is the best for plants. And for some, I guess, sure. Some plants like philodendron, indoor plants that really need bright light, because really they should actually be outdoor plants, which is like rubber trees or fiddle-leaf figs, because these are like trees, right? They actually need a lot of light. But when it comes to my own personal collection, or even the plants here at PCM, if you guys saw what it's like during the day with no lights on, it's actually very, very low light. And for my own personal collection, in the greenhouse, I would say that it is moderate to bright, but not by choice, because I put lots of shade cloths, but you know, it all still seeps in. But for me personally, because I mostly grow anthurium, some philodendron, alocasia, monstera, and little bits and bobs there. But a lot of these plants, particularly the anthuriums, actually just enjoy lower to moderate light. And especially the ones that are like velvety and dark, I do find that they grow better in like a lower light situation. But I think it's super easy to think that if you love your plant and you want it to grow really well, that you need to give it lots of light. And to that, I would say that you'd have to think about the plant and its origin. Is this plant a plant that sits at the bottom of the rainforest floor that doesn't get a lot of light? And if it is, does it actually need that much light? The chances are probably not. So that, my friends, are the 5 things that I do for my plants that may be a little bit controversial. I would love to hear your ideas, your comments on anything that is from today. The spicier, the better, I always say. So feel free to chat down below if there are things that you agree with, or even certain things that you don't agree with. I would love to know. If you have enjoyed this video, I'm going to link another one that you may enjoy up above. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me at PCM. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Mwah.